Hey guys.
Right.
How's it going, Don? Hey, Gordo. How are you guys doing tonight?
Pretty good.
Do you guys know who the 571438 number is?
That's Jessica.
Hey, Jessica, how's it going?
I'm
Jessica,
good. How about you?
do you mind if I change your name? I think you're on a phone, but I can change you so everybody can see who you are.
Yes, I am on a phone right now because I went out for a walk and I'm headed back.
All good. What's your last name?
Horting, Horting.
Got you. All right. Now you're properly labeled. Hey, Gordo, did you get on today? Okay. Can you hear us? Gordo, I'm going to send you a private message if you can hear me. So Don, Jessica, Jessica, I don't know if I've met you yet.
I don't think so.
So what's your goal? How long have you been at Timberline? Where are you from?
I started instructing in Virginia.
Mhm.
I instructed there for 9 seasons before I came to Timberline the year before the pandemic. So I had 1 year of normal and then 1 year of pandemic.
Nice. Where were you in Virginia?
Massanutten.
Cool.
Yeah.
What's your goal for tonight, for the season?
The children's specialist 2 has kind of been my goal, and that was my goal when I first moved out, except that life got in the way.
It happens sometimes.
Yep.
Awesome. So the stuff we're going to do today is going to help you work towards your CS2 stuff. And I've led a ton of CS training, and I'm happy to help you with any parts or whatever you need towards CS2.
Okay, excellent.
Don, what's your goal for today?
Continue to learn more.
Well, I think we've got that covered. If you guys are cool with it, I'm going to give Gordo a quick phone call.
Sounds good.
And maybe we can troubleshoot this.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to stop recording for a second.
So that they're doing anything helpful.
Yeah. Oh, they're great. Like anything, as long as we can see you in the picture clearly. So not like a tiny thing, like basically where you're most of the picture. So Jessica, you're a skier. Don, are you a skier or a snowboarder?
Snowboarder.
Awesome.
I learned to ski ages ago, but I have not been on 2 planks in over 20 years.
Good.
And
So
I will put a snowboard on 2 or 3 times a season, but I am a skier.
That's awesome. Hey, I'm going to mute you guys. You guys talk between yourselves for a minute. I'm going to talk to Gordo, okay?
All right.
Okay, guys, thank you so much for your patience.
All right, we got
All right.
Gordon now.
We're still having problems with audio, and I am not 100% sure how to show him how to use it without seeing his phone.
How do I drop things into the chat? 'Cause it keeps opening on me.
Can you just drag it in?
When I drag it in, it opens the picture in a new like internet tab.
Let me. Oh, is it an internet picture? Or is it a like a JPEG?
No, it's a JPEG saved to my downloads folder here.
All right, so check this out. Do you see the bottom of the chat where there's the little page thing?
I see the type new message.
Yeah, so on that on the right, there's a little page. There's a smiley face and then 3 dots.
I don't have those 3 dots.
All right, plan B, I'm gonna make you a co-host and just trust you for it to be appropriate. And I'm just gonna have you share your screen. Are you familiar with sharing a screen in Zoom?
Most likely. I definitely do it in Teams all the time, and it's more a matter of, do I share the whole screen or do I just share the image? And somewhere I do have videos.
Oh, it's okay. We're
But-
just gonna do a picture for now. So I'm gonna have you click on the green screen share button at the bottom. And you should be able to share your screen. So you'll click the button and then click on the picture that you have open, and that'll allow you to share it.
All right. Did that work?
That did not work.
Why do I have a little error message? Oh, grant access. How do I grant access? Oh, this is going to be more complicated.
You're all good. I can pull up something too.
Okay, find something and I'll try and get this to work.
All right, so since we're going to have a skier pretty soon, I'm gonna grab a snowboarder. And we'll go back and forth because I mean, they're the same. It's just different disciplines. And I'm just like I'm literally pulling up any picture and I'm getting all the special links right now. So you guys see the snowboarder? Looks like it's a picture from the Olympics.
Yeah.
So Don, do you want to fill us in on what we were talking about a little last week with when I mentioned the body parts and just being more specific and that kind of stuff?
Sure. One specific thing I remember is you mentioning using a range of motion when describing a body part. So like using like maybe a numerical scale to say like how flexed or extended a joint is.
Yeah, exactly. So it's cool to say that someone's knee is bent or their ankle is bent or whatever, but you need to define it and you need to be pretty specific when you define it, or it's really hard for other people to understand if they don't see the image. Does that make sense, Jessica?
Yes.
Awesome. So speaking of that, do you guys each want to take a shot? Just describe 3 things about this rider. I'm not looking for like perfect cert MA. I'm more looking for like his knee is bent this much, but a little more specific than that.
Yeah, I'm noticing here that the left knee is bent much more than the right knee. The left knee, I would almost guess, is somewhere around a 90, and the right knee is much less than that, much closer to straight. He's
So
got twists
sorry.
going on in the upper body too.
Cool. What else?
The front arm or the left arm is very far forward and kind of pointing straight, almost as a counterweight, it looks like.
And I'm just writing down what you guys are saying. Just so you guys don't think anything's weird if I'm paused for a second or you see I'm writing.
Those are the obvious ones that I'm seeing right this moment.
Cool.
The
So
hips are really flexed to allow the arm and to reach down and get the body weight closer to the board.
all right, what are 2 more things?
The right ankle's pretty flexed medially towards the center of the body as well, to help enable the body weight to shift towards the left side of the image along the board.
All right, and one more thing.
Is there anything about the head position that is worth noting? I can't tell too much because I don't usually look at that as a skier, except for in kids.
So rather than positive or negative, we're just kind of observing.
Okay.
Like we're saying what body part is bent like what, or like you said, Jessica, where are his eyes? Like where's the head? Like what's
True,
going
his eyes are pointing at one, his landing, but two, his front foot, and it feels like it's tucked down a little bit.
All right, so we've got a bunch of observations. So we are going to go through them one by one and talk about how they're good and how we can make them even better. Sound good?
Yeah.
So the first thing we talked about was the left knee is bent more than the right knee. So I know Don, you snowboard, right? So when someone's doing a grab, why would one knee potentially be bent more than the other?
To be able to shift the body weight of the hips over to enable you to be able to reach certain parts of the board a little more easily, as well as balance out the weight.
Cool. So how about to shift the center of mass where you need it to be?
Yeah.
Which will go into one of the fundamentals eventually when we talk about those later on in the season.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Right.
In this, like in this case, the hips are needing to be like way to the left to be able to compensate as well for the mass that's got his or her shoulders and head that are then also tilted in the other direction too, as well as bringing the hand down.
Cool. So rather than say center of mass to the left, is there another way we could say this? And Jessica, you can contribute too. I mean, we'd want to talk more about.
Yeah, when I saw that, his hips are very far to the left.
So what would the left be? Imagine the tails of his skis are to the left, the nose of his ski is to the right, just to help put it into perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So where would that put his center of mass on his board or on his skis if he were to be on skis?
In the back?
Yeah.
Okay.
So when we talk about what's bent more, what's bent less, sometimes front and back are good descriptors too. And Jessica, you mentioned working with kids. So if you were doing this with a child, I mean, what would you use instead of left and right?
It really depends. I often use the ski lift line and the trees, depending on what run you're on, when that can help turn towards the lift or turn towards the trees.
So let's say you're up on Palmer and you don't have that, and you're just kind of like skiing under the lift. Do you think all little kids could understand what a car is?
Yeah.
What about the front of the car and the back of the car?
Okay.
So the front of the snowboard and back of the snowboard, or front of the skis, back of the skis.
Yes, I was thinking left and right. So yes, front of the car and back of the car totally makes sense.
Yeah, just something to differentiate sides. So we, and then more technical instructor terms are fore and aft. Are you guys both familiar with that?
Yes.
Cool. All right, so we agree that the left knee is definitely bent more than the right knee. That's an awesome observation. Totally makes sense. And Jessica, I like how you described that further by saying left knee is bent at closer to 90, right knee is closer to straight. So Don, if you were to close your eyes and get into that position, would that put you in a similar position to this guy?
I'd also have to add some hip rotation as well, because otherwise, if I just do the focus on the knee, then it's just going to shift my center of mass, but it's not going to add the rotational element that's allowing the rider to make this grab.
So if you stood up right? And we want to bend our back knee at almost 90, right? What automatically happens to our front leg? And you guys can jump up and try this if you want.
So what are we doing again?
Okay, so you're standing up just like normal. Okay.
Yep.
You're gonna bend your back knee, okay,
Mhm.
to almost 90 degrees. Okay. And you're gonna lean over the tail of your imaginary snowboard, right? Your center of mass is going over the tail because that's something we talked about, right?
Yeah.
So what happens to your front leg?
It's very straight right now and light. There's not much weight on that one.
Yeah, so it can become straight and light. So back knee is almost maxed out at 90. Front knees at maybe like 140. Would that give you guys a more accurate picture of where his knees are?
Mhm.
Cool. So let's move on to the next observation, which both of you guys touched on. So Don talked about rotating at the hips. And Jessica talked about a twist in the upper body, right?
Yeah.
So to get in that position, how much is he rotating his hips?
The hips are almost at a 30-degree to where his feet would be square, and then his shoulders rotate another 30 or 40 degrees on that.
So would you say one or the other is almost perpendicular, but in a different plane to the board?
His shoulders would be perpendicular. To the
Yeah, they're
board.
almost perpendicular, but they're in another plane. And then the hips are rotated about half that, right? Just for sake of definition. Does that give you
Yes. Why are you talking about another plane on that? I can see what
So-
you're.
the shoulders? So if you get your body in the position that this rider's in, right? And you get that arm out like you talked about in your next descriptor, right?
Okay.
The back arm's coming up.
And I guess my question is, what are the two planes?
So there are 3 planes, okay? So, and I'm actually gonna pull up a link so you guys can see because it's easier to see a picture of this.
Okay, I do math and that does make sense now that you say that. Okay.
Yeah, it's like the XYZ axis.
Yes.
I'm looking for an appropriate picture of just kind of like a model or something with no details. All right, do you guys see that?
Yeah.
So the frontal plane is the front and back, right? The sagittal plane is when you split left and right, and transverse is the horizontal plane. It's just like an XYZ axis on a 3-dimensional graph.
Okay. Yes. XYZ makes a whole lot of sense.
Cool. Don, you tracking?
Mhm.
Cool. All right, so you see how, let me pull up, annotate. See how the shoulders are here, hips are here. Or, wow, that was a terrible straight line, but you guys get the idea. And board's there. So this is nearly perpendicular. And his hips are a little less than parallel. That 30-degree mark that Jessica talked about was pretty accurate. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're all kind of in different planes. All right, and then Jessica said left arm is kind of far and fading away, kind of acting as a counterweight. So Don, knowing about snowboarding, what's going on? Is it a counterweight?
Counterweight and also balance.
Yeah, and it's allowing him to do what with his body?
Enable him to be able to compress it down to be closer to the board for the grab, as well as increasing how aerodynamic the rider is to make it more stable while he's in the air, he or she.
So it's allowing for stability, and it's happening because of and it's in that place because of rotation. the twisting in the upper body that we talked about earlier. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it's even almost countering that light foot on the front foot.
Yeah. So skiing and snowboarding are really the same thing. They're just different because there are two pieces compared to one, and you're facing forward or sideways. So does that make sense how we put scales on all of these things? Jessica, with that math background, that's huge.
Scales as in like the percentages and it being almost a ratio.
Yeah, a scale can be anything you define it as. Like it can be a number 1 out of 10. You just have to define what it is. It can be a percentage like 90 degrees, 180 degrees, and how much in between.
Okay.
It just, you just need to define it with some kind of range, and you can choose the range.
Cool.
Cool. And then it's super helpful for ski MA, especially as you go towards the higher levels, because you'll need to define the ranges when you talk about the fundamentals.
Okay.
Cool. All right. And now we're going to go to Don's comments. Hips are flexed to allow arm to reach down for the grab. How much are hips flexed? What would you guys rate that as?
To me, that's almost a 90
Mm-hmm.
with the spine and the hip or the femur.
You agree with that, Don?
Yeah.
All right. So check this out. This is really cool. What do you guys notice about those two angles?
Oh, there's two perpendicular angles.
So two right angles, right?
Yep.
Yeah, this angle and that angle are very similar. And that one is not. So you'd say, you could say hips are almost completely flexed. You could say hips are flexed at an 8 out of 10 if 10 is max and 0 is standing straight up tall. Like literally any way you guys want to define it. You can use like some kind of abstract concept to define it, but like the simpler, the better. The fewer words you use that are accurate, the better. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so the next comment is the right ankle is pretty flexed towards the center of the body to let the weight shift left. So is the right ankle very flexed here?
It looks like it's got about a 45-degree flex.
Well, those are terrible drawings. I'm just going to erase those. So I'd say the right ankle actually looks a little bit more extended than flexed, because remember we're talking about the front ankle being the right ankle?
And is this kind of like open close?
Yes.
Okay.
So a closed ankle would be flexed, and open ankle would be extended.
Yeah. I almost see that one as extended and open there on the front.
What's an indicator you could use to help you realize that or help you prove that in this picture?
In that picture. Almost the fact that how much of the bottom of the board you see, because you can't see that much bottom of the board if the toes were pulled up that high. You would see the edge and not the whole bottom, I think.
Don, does that make sense?
Can you repeat that again? I didn't quite catch that.
So what
Much of the bottom of the board you see is kind of telling me how his ankle is open because he's more pointing his toes. If he were closing the ankle, you would only see the edge of the board. You wouldn't see the whole bottom.
That makes sense. I wasn't so much speaking of dorsiflexion of the ankle though.
Would you like to tell us more?
Yeah, instead of like the dorsiflexion like this, I was thinking more like this sort of ankle motion.
Eversion, inversion.
Yes. Yeah, since the right leg is pretty straightened out, and to get the hips over to the left, which is going to make the ankle joint
Turn in, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So sometimes I like to use turn in or turn out just because it's simpler.
Mhm.
So things can get kind of confused. Like the more words we use, the more confusing it gets. The simpler we are and the more basic we are and the more specific we are, the easier it is to see the picture. So if we talk about how the ankle is turning slightly in, right? Because of the way Don described it, that gives us an accurate picture, right? And then when we say the right ankle is flexed, that gives us a very different picture. Maybe not such an accurate picture, even though I know you saw that. Saw that the ankle is turned like this a little bit. All right, let's move on. So the eyes are really important in skiing or snowboarding, and that was a really good catch. He could be looking at the grab. He could be looking at the landing. He's also getting his head into the proper position to do the grab.
Okay.
Make sense? So like if his head was looking up at the sky, his arm would probably be flying up and he'd be off balance and he'd be kind of tilting. And his weight would shift back over his heels. Does that make sense?
Are you talking about heels or tail of the board here? Because
Heel edge.
okay.
And also tail, but more towards his heel edge, because you see how his weight is behind his heel edge? Like his butt.
It's very heel and back to me.
Yes. So if you drew a line down from his center of mass, which would be right here, it would go down to right there, right? Which is over the tail, but then it's also over the heel edge. And if his arm, imagine he picked his arm up, right? What would happen to his eye? So he picks his head up, right? What would happen to his arm if he picked his head up?
Gonna go up and back.
Yeah. So then where would that dump him?
Put more weight on the tail and also over on the heel.
Yeah. So that would dump him over. Does that make sense to you guys? Do you guys feel like this discussion is valuable, or do you want to move on to something else? What would you guys like to see?
It's definitely interesting to look at how we can rate things and even how every body part does interact. I haven't done this kind of analysis in a little while.
Cool. Don, are you still tracking on this, or would you prefer to do something else? Okay, cool. I just to make sure you guys are interested. So how about we take a look at a skier? Jessica, if you've got an image ready, I can grab it. If not, I can pull one off Google.
We are going to see if this works now. Haha.
Yes, pro screen sharing.
Okay.
Do you have
So
any zoom in?
close enough. Yeah.
Can you zoom in at all? Like kind of a lot?
Not as good resolution, but
It's fine. We can still see where body parts are.
yeah.
All right. So it looks like it's someone's following you from behind, right?
Yes, and I'm honestly not positive that this is me, but it was a great shot of some skier from behind.
That's okay. We can talk about it. All right. So let's go for the same format if you guys are good with that. Just
Okay.
and you don't have to go like one person does it and the other person does it. You guys can just bounce back and forth off each other because it's only, I think, 2 of us in here. Gordo might be in here, or 3 of us. Gordo might be here too, but I'm not sure.
Yeah. All right. So he's got some hip angulation leaning into the hill.
Cool. What's angulation?
This one I want to describe as like 160 degrees or something. It's
What is angulation? Rather than how much, like if you were asked to define the term.
angulation is, I describe it as the body forming angles to make different movements happen with the ski snow interaction here.
Cool. The key part of that is with adjacent body parts.
Okay.
Yeah, and I can see your understanding through that definition. Your understanding solid.
Okay.
Cool. So about 160 degrees of hip angulation.
Yeah.
Cool. So if you guys jump into that position with 160 degrees-ish of hip angulation, let's stand up and get into that position. What else is happening to allow us to be in that position? Whoa.
right knee's starting to bend a bit. Or one of the, like, the outer knee.
And to go with that, the inside leg is shorter, outside leg is longer.
Yeah.
All right,
Um,
so how short and how long? And we don't have to always use degrees. You can use a number scale too, or letters, or whatever you want.
So 10 out of 10 is fully straight. He's got one at like a 9 and the other at a 6-ish. It's
Cool.
not that difference between the two.
Which one's at a 9? Which one's at a 6?
The outside's at the 9, the inside is at the 6. And does
Cool.
inside outside make sense here?
Yeah.
Inside's the right leg, right?
Yeah.
And the outside is the left leg?
Yeah.
And that's, I'm assuming that's based on the curve of the turn. So in this case, it looks like the skier is turning towards the right. So therefore the right leg's the inside.
That's what
I
I'm
like-
understanding.
I like how you guys worked together to find that. That was cool. And Don, I like how you defined where in the turn the person was. So we could move that further if you want. You could call out the phase of the turn that the skier's in.
He's actually getting close to finishing the turn.
Would you agree, Don?
Yeah.
Cool. How do you know?
The skiers on the inside edges, so they've fully committed and made the edge transition there, and they're in that turn, they're, what do I use it to describe, past the apogee of the turn as well.
And I'm almost going to describe it as he's getting very close to being across the hill perpendicularly.
Yeah.
Cool. So check this out. When you talk about a turn, PSA defines it for you: initiation, control, finish, or initiation, shaping, finish.
So he's at
Makes
the end
sense?
of the shaping phase.
Yeah, end of the shaping, like start of the finish. And you can see him curved around. And if I had, or Jessica, you can jump into annotate if you want. At the top, it says more options next to screen share. And then there's a little option for annotate. And you can even draw. And I might steal the screen from you in a minute and steal this right now. You cool if I steal? You cool if I steal screen share?
Yeah.
All right, I'm just gonna put your picture up. I just took a screenshot of it. You guys probably heard it. As soon as I open it up. And then I'll draw some lines like we did on the other one so you guys can see it better.
I totally don't have the annotate button.
It's okay. All right, you guys ready to check this out?
Yeah.
All right, so. There's the turn, right? And then you guys can see the pole track right there.
Uh-huh.
That's funny, the pole track's easier to see. But so if the initiation of the turn is right here, control is right here, finish is right there. He's got a little more to go, or she, to finish shaping out that turn to start the next turn. Make sense?
Yep.
All right, now let's go back to the body parts. So here's the skis. Inside leg. Outside leg. Are those pretty close to the angles we talked about? All right, so I'm going to draw the waist. And then I'm going to draw the spine. It's not quite that straight, but let's try that again. I'll draw the spine right there, shoulders right here. So does that angulation that Jessica was talking about at the hips make sense? Cool. And then what about the skier's arm?
It's a similar angulation to what we just looked at too on the snowboarder, but without the hip rotation too.
Yeah, definitely. Skiing and snowboarding are so similar. It's kind of funny. At first you think it's so hard, but like the opposite discipline, but it's the same.
It's hard
Alright.
talking about it though, because I'm spinning everything 90 degrees in my head, thinking forward, backwards, when it's not quite forwards, backwards, different.
It's all good. It's something we'll all become better at together, talking about basically facing a different direction. You guys
Yeah.
want to call out some more things about the skier?
It looks like the hands are a little bit behind the hips, which isn't necessarily ideal.
Cool. Why is it not ideal?
It's putting your weight more in the back.
What could the skier do to, are you guys seeing what I'm doing, or are you seeing the picture still?
I don't see any drawings right now. I see your mouse moving.
Okay, there are no drawings. I'm looking for another image to enhance.
Okay.
Cool. So how far back are the arms, and what do the arms do?
The arm's not much behind the main like spinal plane, but it is definitely behind that spinal plane.
Cool. So I'm going to move back to what we were talking about the center of mass. What are you guys noticing about this skier center of mass?
It is up the hill, or maybe leaning into the hill.
Is on the inside of the turn.
So it's a little bit on the inside of the turn. I'm going to pull up annotate again. So if we drew a line down, you agree it's right about there?
Mhm.
And then what else about the center of mass do you guys notice?
It's hard to tell fore and aft from this picture, but honestly, the way the hands are, I would kind of say that it's behind where it would usually be.
Good. Are there any other indicators that the center of mass might be slightly aft? Other than saying the hands are behind where they'd usually be?
I almost want to say how straight his legs are, because in skiing, the way the boots are, you are almost always flexed, and it's a matter of, are you only somewhat flexed or very flexed? And his ankles are looking much straighter than I would expect.
So if his ankles are looking straighter, what does that mean? Are they opened or closed or? Cool. So when you're skiing and your ankles are open, what happens with the rest of your body?
The hips can maybe going to flex a little bit more to compensate.
Okay, what else could happen? All right, so guys, jump up. Okay, get into a skiing stance or snowboarding stance, doesn't matter. Okay, just your proper stance. Okay, so are your ankles, knees, and hips flexed pretty equally?
Hips, I don't think are flexed the same, but I can see knees and ankles being roughly the same.
Cool, keep your knees flexed the same way they are and open up your ankles. And if you have to grab something, grab it. What's happening?
You fall backwards.
Exactly. So if this skier's ankles are open or less closed, what is it making him or her do?
Fall backwards, and even the spray of the tails is a little bit of an
Yes.
indicator.
Yes, exactly. So Don, if a snowboarder was aft, right? Would we see that same spray? Potentially on a skidded turn like this?
Now by aft in this case, are you meaning shift, like center of weight shifted towards the tail of the board or towards the heel edge of the board?
Towards the tail.
Okay. Then yes.
Yeah, so as a skier, when your ankles open up like this, your center of mass shifts F. That's why little kids are often aft. They just let their ankles open up and kind of brace on those boots and use their skeleton because they're little munchkins and they're tired. Make sense?
Yep.
Are there any other things you guys are noticing about the skier?
The right arm's closer to the body than the left arm. Left arm's extended out a little bit more.
Just
It feels like the left arm's compensating for him being so angled and almost out of balance.
so you're saying he's doing some kind of balancing move, or she? I'm sorry. I don't know if this is you or someone else.
I don't think that's me, but I don't know, because there were pretty clouds above it that I'm pretty sure I was taking pictures of the clouds.
I totally don't blame you. It's so pretty there. Yeah, so
Yeah, I think
I'm
it's a little
sorry.
bit
Yeah, I imagine since the center of mass is shifted to the inside of the turn, if the skier's right arm were extended out away from the body more, that would shift the mass even more. And it's possible that that left arm is out extended to help be a counterweight for the center of mass that's in the inside of the turn.
Cool. I really like how detailed and specific that was.
Thanks. So
we're not going to make a prescription to fix this rider, but we're going to talk about what part of the body we'd fix. I'm going to ask each of you to give me the part of the body you'd fix. I'll give you two choices and tell me why you choose that. So your choices are upper body or lower body. And I know there's a lot, but we're just going to keep it simple for now.
Yeah, I would choose lower body and honestly start with the ankles. There's going to be a lot that could be done for this person just by getting a little more ankle flexion.
Cool. So why would you choose the lower body and ankles?
There's nothing concerning me drastically about the upper body, and the ankles are the closest point to the snow, so that's kind of your first immediate change.
And what is the specific reason you would pick ankles though? Like what's off?
The ankles are what would start correcting the center of mass to be a little bit more forward again.
Cool. And when we talk about how we'd fix something rather than like what, it makes, well, when we add it to the what, it just makes it so much easier. Like we'll have the how, we'll have the what, and we'll have the why, which is, Jessica, you covered all those in your description. Thank you. That was awesome. And we'll keep getting more specific and more specific as we work through. And as you go to your CS2, you'll need to do the phases. You'll need to do 2 fundamentals and I think 3 phases of the turn for the MA. And you're well on your way towards that. Cool.
All right.
All right. Don, what about you?
I agreed with Jessica with I always tend to like to go straight from like the bottom near the snow, because I find that a lot of times it seems like you can make smaller adjustments and corrections and it'll have a bigger impact. And I often find upper body motions tend to be kind of corrected, like almost like a corrective reaction to something going on with the lower body. And it may be more likely that if you change where that bottom part of the problem is that something that's in the upper body might just not need to exist anymore.
Cool. Yeah, I can see your experience teaching. Fix the lower body. Sometimes the upper body just corrects itself and it's less stuff for you to do, less stuff for your student to deal with. And it makes things a lot simpler. Cool.
Mhm.
Yep.
Do you guys see anything else you'd like to address with this skier? And you're allowed to say no also.
No, he's dragging his pole, which isn't great on the inside there, the right, but there's a lot of people that do that, and the poles again are periphery things that don't fix those until you have the rest of it fixed.
Yeah, and this skier is also doing a lot of good things, right?
Yeah.
Like I'd be stoked if this was my student.
Yeah.
I mean, like, what are some good things you guys see out of this skier?
I mean, parallel, there's angulation of the skis in the snow.
Both skis are angled about the same amount relative to the snow as well. Like you don't have one ski that's tilted at a different edge angle.
Cool. Yeah, you can see that equal spray of both skis.
Mhm.
Yeah. This student, like, that'd be solid.
Yeah.
Fun student to teach. I mean, all students are fun, but this guy'd be cool. All right, I'm gonna stop the share right now. So it is 7:24. Do you guys want to see another picture? Do you want to start wrapping up? What are your thoughts?
It's 6:24 here in
Oh,
Portland.
sorry.
I think I'm gonna need to wrap up soon. I've got another engagement I
Okay.
need to get to.
Sorry, different time zones. I would
Okay.
like to be respectful of both your times. So just to conclude, we're just moving forward and identifying those body parts, being specific about movements and applying it to the pictures we see. And we're starting to work towards fundamentals. We brought center of mass in, right? We talked a little bit about flexion extension. We talked a little bit about what the board's doing. And then, so the next session I lead is going to just keep building on this, which will be, I think, in 2 weeks.
Okay. And we also talked about the 3 planes of the body. That was
Yes, about the
cool
3
there.
planes of motion. I would try to keep it simpler and more focused on the fundamentals. We talked about that because it was relevant to the picture that we saw.
Uh-huh.
And the reason is the fundamentals are just like a framework. Somebody once told me it's like going to the eye doctor and they say, is it this one or this one? Okay, this one's better, this one or this one, this one's better, this one or this one, this one's better. And you pick the best view to see it. And then that allows you to like hyper focus your MA. So you can keep it simple, keep it focused, keep it on one fundamental, and that'll allow you to be successful.
all right.
Medical doctor might be somebody I would use those planes of reference to describe something
Yeah.
with.
Exactly. And you need to know your audience. You guys are both super smart and super analytical. And it came up, it made sense to both of you, like Jessica's background in math. Like it just made sense. Like if I was working with like a group of new like 18-year-old instructors, I mean, and they just wanted to like ride park or something like that, I don't think I'd bring up the planes of motion. It'd bring up, oh, this is parallel to the box, you know, or this is parallel, or this works with the trajectory this way. Like there are lots of ways to describe things based on your audience. Do you guys have any questions?
Not offhand.
My only question would be, can I have like a 2-minute synopsis of your background? Because I feel like you're the Colorado person coming to join
Oh, I'm
us.
sorry. I'm so sorry. Yeah, I am the Colorado person. So I started teaching at Ski Sundown in Connecticut in 2005, 6. Then I headed to Copper for a couple of years. I've been at Beaver Creek for 14 years. I spent a season at Perisher, a season at Valle Nevado in Chile. And then I'm here to hang out at Timberline with you guys this year part-time, and it's going to be awesome.
Cool.
I have done a fair amount of skiing at Sundown.
Oh, sweet. Really?
Yeah, I'm from New York in Connecticut.
Oh,
And
that's so funny.
boarding schools up near Hartford, so I would go to Sundown and Butternut all the time.
Oh, that's so funny. Where'd you go to school?
Suffield Academy.
That's awesome. I wanted to go to prep school so bad and my parents wouldn't let me.
Right.
Yeah, so I'm happy to answer any questions at any time you guys have. It doesn't all have to be today. Don, I do not want to keep you if you got another engagement. And Jessica, if you have more questions, I can stay on for another few minutes if you want.
I think my only questions would be a little bit more about the children's specialist exam, because my exams I took in the Eastern Division, and the Alpine 2 is totally different here versus there.
So all the standards just changed a little bit because the new everything is going towards the national standard now. So the children's specialist is very similar. I'm actually gonna end this call right now and then let's talk offline, okay?
Okay, that totally works.
All right, cool. Thank you so much, guys. I'm gonna stop recording and I will
Thank you.
see you come next week. I think Dennis is leading and it's gonna be awesome. And I will be back here in 2 weeks. So
Okay.
thank you so much and I'll see you
Bye.
guys soon.
Thanks.